Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace be upon everyone. So today we're going to be continuing the series on hard SAT math questions, and we're given question 2 of the series, which is y equals x squared minus 3 and y plus 5 equals 5x plus 16. If x, y is the solution to the system of equations above and x is less than 0, what is the value of x squared y squared? So the first thing you have to do is to think about this problem. First of all, one mistake that students make is that maybe they see x, y, they think, well, I'm supposed to find the value of x and I'm also supposed to find the value of y. 100%. But then they forget that the actual question that they're asked to solve for is x squared y squared. So you're not going to just stop at x, y. And you could also see that the options are not in paired form. So there is no like 1, 2 or 4, 7 or something like that. So that's a hint for you to know that you're going to just do more than the bare minimum of finding the x value and the y value. So that's the first thing you have to note, not to make a mistake of. The second thing you have to realize is that the equation that you're given, equation 1, and then you have equation 2, is a system of equation. The first equation, equation 1, is a quadratic equation where we have the value of x squared. So x has two values, right? So what we actually care about in order for us to have x, y is the x value that is less than 0. And the x value that is less than 0 is going to be the x value that is negative. One thing I want you guys to know is anytime you see an SAT problem, before you go on to solve it, you have to properly understand what the question is asking you to solve, right? Do not make the mistake of, oh my God, I know how to do it. Let's just jump. And then you jump and you do the math and then you're confused halfway through and you're reading the problem and you don't know what to do. What you have to do is understand what you're given, understand the fact that it's x squared, y squared that you're supposed to solve, understand what x less than 0 means, and then proceed to solve. So we're given the system of equations y equals x squared minus 3 and then y plus 5 equals 5x plus 16. And we're supposed to find the value of x, y in order for us to go through any of the process going forward, right? So the first thing you have to do is the first equation has the value of y in terms of x. But this is not like a regular linear equation, right? The first equation is quadratic. So since we already have the value of y in terms of x, we can just simply substitute equation 1 into equation 2. That's what we can do here. One thing I have to note is that students make a third mistake. They not only make the mistake of saying x squared, y squared, they make the mistake of just picking any value of x that is easy instead of x less than 0. Then the third mistake is for students to want to apply either the graphical method, which is completely unnecessary in this question, or they want to apply the elimination method, which is a tricky part, right? It's very tricky because you can just decide to multiply equation 2 by -1 in order for you to cancel out y. So it will end up being a new equation, and you're going to have -y, -5 equals -5x, -16 in equation 2. So when you add them up, you're going to get the value of y to be 0. Like the value of y basically cancels out because you eliminate the value of y so you can focus on x. That is okay, but you don't have to go through that process because one is going to waste your time. Two, it could potentially confuse you when you're dealing with equations with different signs. So that is the third mistake you should avoid. So now 3 mistakes you should avoid in a question like this. Now let's go on to solving. So you have to substitute equation 1 into equation 2. So what that is saying is that our new equation is going to be just simply x squared minus 3. So I'm substituting equation 1 into equation 2. So plus 5, so this is equation 2, equals 5x plus 16. So that we've substituted in equation 1, y equals x squared minus 3 into equation 2. So hence every single thing in this new equation is in terms of x. So we can now basically make this into a quadratic equation by equating every single thing to 0. So we can have x squared minus 3, first of all, plus 5 equals 5x plus 16. I just simply eliminated the bracket. So to be able to turn this into a quadratic equation, we're going to equate all of this information here to 0. So that would be x squared minus 3 plus 5. We don't have to rewrite that. You can just simply do math there. So minus 3 plus 5 is the same thing as positive 2. And then you have 5x. Well, because we're putting it on the left side of the equation, we're going to change the sign. So instead of plus 5x, we're going to have negative 5x. And then because we're going to be taking 16 to the left-hand side, we're going to make the opposite sign of positive 16, which is negative 16, right? That is equal to 0. So you have x squared plus 2 minus 5x minus 16 equals 0. So that's the same thing as saying x squared minus 5x. Negative 16 plus 2 is the same thing as negative 14, and all of that equal to 0. So this is the first part of the equation. So now we've gotten the quadratic equation. Now we can go on to solve. Now you guys can see what I'm doing, and hopefully it comes together. Slowly but surely, we're going to find the two values of x, and then we're going to pick the value of x that is actually less than 0. You guys are going to see that soon enough. So you have x squared minus 5x minus 14 equals 0, right? So the next thing you have to do, you guys, is for you to just solve this. And I am going to be solving this using one of my favorite methods called factorization method. So we're going to be factoring this. So through factorization method, we can determine the value of x. So the way to do factorization method, and if you know how to do it, you can just simply fast forward this part. And if you want a refresher, I'll just tell you to please listen. So you have x squared minus 5x minus 14. What we're trying to do in factorization method is to first of all look at what two values, when you multiply them together, would give you the value of negative 14. So basically we have a, b, c, right? So where a in this particular equation is a equals positive 1, b equals negative 5, and then c equals negative 14. But for factorization method, what we're trying to do is find the factors of c, and c here is negative 14, that when you find the two factors of negative 14, when you add them up, right, you're going to get the value of b, which is negative 5. So I'm going to write the factors of negative 14 here, which is negative 1 and 14, because when you multiply them together, guess what you get? You're going to get negative 14. You also have 1 and negative 14. Multiply them together, you get negative 14. So we're going to do negative 2 as well as positive 7, and then 2, and then negative 7. So when you do all of that together, when you multiply them, you end up with negative 14, negative 14, negative 14. So one thing you can do is for you to just add them up. Like when you add them up, you're going to get negative 5. That's what we're trying to do, right? So negative 4 and 14 is when you add them up, you're just going to get 13. Here, you're going to get negative 13. So that's not what we want. 7 minus 2, that's positive 5. That's not what we want either. And then 2 and negative 7, that's actually what we want, right? So you have negative 5. So these are the two values of x that we need in factorization. Remember, factorization, get the factors of c, which in this case, c equals negative 14. Then when you get the factors of c, you add them up to see whatever you get the value of b to be, in this case, negative 5. And we've already successfully done that. So now that we've done that, we know the factors that we're looking for is 2 and negative 7. So we're just going to rewrite this, and we're going to have x squared plus 2x minus 7x minus 14 equals 0. This is basically what we need here. So we're going to first of all group like this information and then group this information separately. So we're going to get the factors of the first two terms. And when we factor out the information from the first two terms, we can factor out x, and we have x plus 2. We're going to do the same here. We're going to factor out something that can be factored between the last two terms, which is negative 7, and you have x plus 2. But guess what? We want to make sure that the information inside of here matches the information inside of here. And when we get that part, we know that we've done our factorization correctly. So what we end up with is x plus 2 and then x minus 7. And that is equal to 0. So the values of x will be x equals negative 2. Okay. Because we're going to do x plus 2 equals 0, as well as x minus 7 equals 0, which is the same thing as x equals 7. So the two values of x are x equals -2 as well as x equals 7. I remember what we did, right? Remember what I taught you guys. We want the value of x that is less than 0. And what that is teaching us, that the value of x that is less than 0 is going to simply be a negative number. So we're going to go with our negative number here, which is x equals -2, and we're going to ignore x equals 7 because that's not what they want us to use in the problem. You guys can see what is going on. And of course, on your test, you're supposed to be much faster than this. I'm just the one breaking the information down because this is to an extent, this is a hard question. This is not like a question that students easily pass, whether they don't know how to do proper solving of the systems of equation, whether they know how to do that and then make like one of the mistakes of the value of x, or they don't even do the question right up until the very end, but they have good steps. So just try your possible best to like use this as a refresher, by the way. So you have x equals -2. Well, we already have the value of x equals -2. Now we're going to find the value of y. Well, we know y in terms of x is y equals x squared minus 3. We can just simply substitute that. So you have y equals -2 squared minus 3. So y equals -2 squared is 4 minus 3. So y equals 1. So x equals -2 and y equals 1. So you have the value x squared y squared equals -2 squared, okay, and then 1 squared. So what you end up with is 4 times 1. So our answer is going to be 4. And when you see this, you see that our answer is B in this particular question. I hope this video has been very useful and you guys have learned something. If you have, make sure you check the third hardest question whenever you're dealing with SAT math quadratics. So I wish you guys all the very best. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.